Hey there. This is a presentation simply about Great Britain, which is my country. Um, we're going to look a little bit at a variety of different things to do with Great Britain, some of the food, some of the places, some locations. Yeah, hope you enjoy. Okay, so where is Great Britain? Great Britain, it's also known as the United Kingdom. It's a small group of islands based in the continent of Europe. We're in the northern part of Europe, and being a set of islands means that we are not really connected to anything else. We've got the English Channel, which separates us from France. We've got the Irish Sea, which separates us from Ireland, and then we've got the North Sea on the right hand side. The United Kingdom itself is made up of four countries, which are England, Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland. Whilst they have their own governments and certain laws that pertain to each area is controlled from a central government in London, and each are united because they recognise the Queen as the head of state. So London is the capital city of England. London is also the principal city of the United Kingdom. It's home to many, many famous landmarks. Several famous people are also from London. Um, if you want to, when you go visit London, you can see Big Ben, you can see the Houses of Parliament, Buckingham Palace, St Paul's Cathedral. There is a variety of things for people to go and see and do in London. London is also very, very old. A lot of the buildings in London are from the 1800s. Some of them are newer, like the Shard, for example. And then there are traces of Roman history as well in London. London itself was called Londinium in Roman time. We have also got some of the world's best football teams in London: Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham Hotspur, just to name a few. London itself is visited by millions of people every year, and it has a population of 8.9 million people, which makes London the most lived in city in the whole of the United Kingdom. No other city in the United Kingdom has more people living in it. So one of the buildings that I mentioned in the previous slide was Big Ben and the Houses of Parliament. Big Ben itself was built in 1859, or construction was completed, I should say, in 1859. It's 96 meters tall, and it's called Big Ben simply because of the clock and the bell that's inside. The bell itself is called Big Ben. Um, and it's means that it's got quite a memorable name. Okay, the Houses of Parliament themselves have been around for hundreds of years. They date from 1066, so William the Conqueror's time. However, the current building it was reconstructed in 1840, and it's home of the British government. We have the British Parliament that meets in there. They meet every day. They meet weekly, and the Parliament itself is the group of people that govern or make the laws of the United Kingdom. Another famous landmark in London is Tower Bridge. Okay, Tower Bridge is next door to the Tower of London. So the Tower of London is a very famous prison where many, many famous people have been kept, including Mary, Queen of Scots, before she was beheaded by Queen Elizabeth I. But Tower Bridge itself is a bridge that crosses the River Thames. Okay, the River Thames, of course, is the river that runs all the way through central London. If ever you see an overhead shot of London, you will always see the River Thames. Tower Bridge was built in 1886. It opens in the middle. It's a special bridge because it opens in the middle. It allows for high-masted ships to pass through and access the docks on the other side. Nowadays, it's used both by pedestrians, but also by buses and other modes of transport to cross. Of course, these have to stop when the bridge opens. And again, when it was first opened, you will see at the top there is two gangways. These gangways were used for pedestrians. Pedestrians would climb up the two towers and walk across when the bridge was closed. However, due to a variety of illicit activities, the gangways were closed. They are now used for a variety of different art exhibitions and things. An interesting piece of information for you, and of course you can Google this. However, in the 1950s, a fighter pilot flew an aeroplane through the middle of Tower Bridge, between the bridge and the gangway. And if you want to have some more information, have a look on Google, have a look on YouTube. There are several videos that tell the story far better than I can. Okay, so one site that I think everybody who goes to London goes and sees is Buckingham Palace. Buckingham Palace is the London residency of the Queen. The Queen has several places that she lives in throughout the year. Windsor Castle, for example, Sandringham. However, Buckingham Palace is the London residency of the Queen. It's used for a variety of celebrations, including the Royal Variety Show, which simply is just a show which showcases the theatrical and artistic talents of the people of the United Kingdom. It's also the place where the Jubilee happens, and so because the Queen has been the Queen for a very, very long time, every so many years the celebration went for the Golden Jubilee, which was 50 years of the Queen's reign, in which there was a big procession down the Mall, which is the big road in front of it. There was a big fly past, and a variety of other different things happened, and will continue to happen. And hopefully the Queen will of her kingdomship. And so there will be another Jubilee that I would imagine would happen in front of Buckingham Palace on the Mall. Interesting fact for you, depending on which flag is flying at the top of Buckingham Palace, depends if the Queen is in or not. In this picture, the Queen is not presently at home, as the Queen Elizabeth's flag is not flying. It is rather the Union flag that is there. 10 Downing Street is the home of the British Prime Minister. Typically, the Prime Minister would live there with his family. Currently, the current occupant is Boris Johnson, who is the current Prime Minister and leader of the Conservative Party. 10 Downing Street itself is over 300 years old, and for a very, very long time, you could walk right up to the door. However, in the last few years, the road has been closed off and it is heavily patrolled by guards and police. Several famous faces, of course, have lived at 10 Downing Street, including Sir Winston Churchill, Margaret Thatcher, and of course, in more recent times, Tony Blair. So the London Eye was built in time and for the celebration of the millennium, which was in the year 2000. Originally, the London Eye was supposed to be a temporary attraction. However, due to its popularity, its lease was extended and it was made permanent. It offers exclusive views of London. It's 135 meters tall. It offers an incredible vista. It takes about an hour for you to go around. And by the time that you have started at the bottom and risen to the top, you have seen a whole panorama of the city, ranging from North London to South London to the edges of Croydon, if the weather is good. They have about 3.75 million visitors annually, so it has become a very, very big attraction. And some would argue what the Eiffel Tower is to Paris, the London Eye is to London. So now we move outside of London to Stonehenge. Stonehenge is located in Wiltshire, in the county of Wiltshire, and it's one of the most famous landmarks of the UK. I think that most people who look at pictures of the UK or would Google pictures of the UK, I'm pretty sure that Stonehenge would come up. It was built about 3000 BC, so it's very, very old. Its use is unknown. Its original use is unknown. And there are many, many myths and legends about it. Some say that it's used to tell the time. Some say that it was used as a burial ground. However, its current use is as a visitor attraction. It attracts many, many visitors from all around the world every year. And it also has many, many celebrations. Many pagans will come at both winter solstice and, more importantly, summer solstice to celebrate their beliefs. And so that is what Stonehenge is now currently used for. So we won't be anywhere really without fish and chips, I don't think. I think it's the most stereotypical British food. Whenever I speak to my European friends, they always have a joke about fish and chips. Have you eaten fish and chips yet today? Um, Traditionally, fish and chips is eaten at the seaside. The seaside is a British word for a town that is next to the sea. So an example of the seaside would be Blackpool or Scarborough in the north, or Weston-super-Mare or Brighton in the south. Um, where you buy your fish and chips is called a chippy. Typically, they're not always restaurants. However, you can find fish and chips in restaurants. A chippy is not a restaurant. A chippy is just a small shop at the side of a house or something. And they serve fish, they serve chips, they will do sausages and pies and a variety of different things. Haddock or cod is normally the fish that's used, and they batter that. And you have to eat fish and chips with salt and vinegar. If you don't eat fish and chips without salt and vinegar, you're not eating fish and chips. A slightly different English traditional food, or British traditional food, I should say, is black pudding. Black pudding is a type of sausage. It's made of pork blood, but it also has a variety of different oats and herbs and pork fat contained within there as well. It can be eaten on its own. You can go to a variety of different markets, certainly in the north of England. Bury Market is one that comes to mind. And you can go and you can buy yourself a black pudding and you eat it as it is, as it's served in the skin. However, black pudding is also often eaten with a traditional English breakfast. There are a variety of names that this is given: Irish pudding, Scottish pudding, but all above all, they are black pudding. And so they are what they are: black pudding, pork blood, served with breakfast. It's very, very good. And if you're ever in the UK, I would recommend you to try it. Another English delicacy is pork pie. Pork pie is made of it's a traditional pastry. It's made of pork and pork fat, pork gelatin on the inside, and then you have a water-based pastry on the outside. They're normally eaten as a snack, or they're eaten with a salad. Traditionally, it would be made with pork. However, nowadays you can have vegetarian pork pies, which use a pork substitute. You can have black pudding pork pie, which I've had, which is very nice. You can have pork pie that has got a pickled egg in as well. Again, there is a big variety of things you can have, and those are also eaten as a snack or with a salad. Yorkshire puddings are unique to the UK. They are made of eggs, flour, and milk. It really is that simple. They are now eaten as part of your roast dinner. However, traditionally, a Yorkshire pudding was served as a starter. You would eat the Yorkshire pudding, you would fill yourself up on the pudding, and then and then the cook, the chef, would have to serve you less meat, or they would be able to serve you less meat because you were already full, and so you would want to eat less with your main course. The pudding itself comes from the north of England, hence the name Yorkshire Pudding. Yorkshire is a county found in the north of England. English breakfast, Scottish breakfast, Irish breakfast, Great British breakfast, full traditional breakfast, they're all the same thing. They're traditionally served for breakfast. It consists of a black pudding, sausage, bacon, tomatoes, eggs, both fried and scrambled, beans, mushrooms, maybe toast. Alternatively, in the modern day, we also have hash browns, which is an American influence. So traditionally, a hash brown would not be part of your English breakfast. Due to time, however, most people do not eat an English breakfast for dinner or for breakfast every day. Equally, I don't think it would be very healthy to eat all of that fried food for breakfast every day, and so most people will just eat toast or a cereal or an alternative food to an English breakfast. We've touched on this a little bit with the pork pie. However, pies and puddings are another traditional food. One's made with a traditional pastry, the other is made with a suet-based pastry. So a pie is traditional pastry and a pudding is suet-based. The inside of both of them is often meat and gravy, sometimes with vegetables as well. One particular traditional filling for both of them would be steak and kidney. Steak and kidney, or just steak on its own. They can be eaten on their own. However, they are often eaten with chips and with mushy peas, and of course with the chips and the mushy peas you'd add your salt and your vinegar as well. Pies are more frequently found in a chippy. However, if you go to the north of England, you will also find puddings available as well. Pies and puddings are both traditionally northern foods. Now for traditional English dessert, we've got trifle. Trifle is made with fruit, jelly, custard, whipped cream. It was first made in 1585, or that's the first record, I should say, of one being made. And it is something that has continued through. It can be served for formal occasions. It can be served at children's parties. It can be served all over. It's something that tastes really, really good. And if ever you're in the UK again, I would recommend you to try one of these. Christmas pudding is a traditional part of the Christmas dinner here in the UK. It's made of dried fruits. It's held together by suet and egg. It's flavoured using a variety of herbs and spices such as ginger, cloves, and nutmeg, just to name a few. Typically, you would have to make the Christmas pudding several months before because you need time for it all to set and to sit in time for Christmas Day. Traditionally, you would soak the Christmas pudding in alcohol. From memory, I think it's brandy. However, I don't drink, so I don't know exactly. But traditionally, you would soak it in an alcohol, and then you would set the alcohol on fire, thus burning the alcohol off to enrich the flavour of the pudding. Like I said, I don't drink, and so if ever I eat Christmas pudding, I eat it without the alcohol, which can also be done. Football is traditionally known as the English game. Okay, we sing football's coming home for a reason. And the United Kingdom itself has some of the best and biggest football leagues in the world, including the Premier League and our second division, the Championship. Several famous teams are from the United Kingdom, including Manchester United, Arsenal, Chelsea, Celtic, Rangers, Liverpool, and Leeds. And Wembley is the national stadium, home of the Three Lions, or alternatively known as the England football team. Wembley as well is used for all domestic cup competition finals, so playoff competitions. The FA Cup and the League Cup are also held at Wembley Stadium. Rugby was created in the town of Rugby, in the Warwickshire town of Rugby, in the middle of the United Kingdom. It uses an oval football, and it's very, very physical. It's rumoured that it was created from football by a man picking up the ball and running with it to the end of the pitch. What you may not know is whilst rugby and football may now look very, very different, several hundreds of years ago when rugby was first invented, um, football itself was very violent and very rough and was very, very similar in its form to rugby, other than you didn't pick up the ball. The point system for rugby, you get 5 points for a try, 2 for a conversion, and 3 for a penalty or a drop goal. And England themselves were world champions in 2003, which you can see in the picture down below. Cricket is a very traditional English game. It's also played by most of the former Empire and current Commonwealth countries. It's played on an oval pitch with a red ball, or certainly red ball in the Test series. However, if it's 2020 and it's played at night, the colour of the ball is different. The purpose of the game simply is to score more runs than your opponents. You need to protect your wickets. The wickets are the sticks that stand behind the batsman. If the wicket is hit by the ball, you are out. Now, the UK being surrounded by water makes it an apt place for rowing. Rowing is something that the UK is very good at. Often achieving lots and lots of medals in the Olympics. A famous Olympian from the United Kingdom would be Sir Steve Redgrave. It's seen as a traditional British sport. The Oxford University and Cambridge University have a boat race up and down the Thames, which happens every single year without fail. And traditionally, you would support one or the other on this race. Cycling is also a traditional British sport, maybe slightly less so than our European counterparts. However, the United Kingdom itself has a great tradition with bike manufacture, with Sir James Starley making his own form of transmission. And a variety of different cities, including Coventry, being massive manufacturing hubs for bike manufacture. The United Kingdom itself has been more successful over a longer period of time with track cycling. However, it's had a road presence certainly since the 1950s and 1960s. Several famous British cyclists of note are Chris Boardman and Graham O'Brien, of course famous for their hour record challenge. And then Sir Bradley Wiggins, the first winner of the yellow jersey, well, the first winner of the Tour de France, I should say, for the United Kingdom. And then Chris Froome, who is the United Kingdom's most successful Grand Tour cyclist. Also, just to name a few, you have Tom Simpson, who died in 1967, whilst competing in the Tour de France, who was the first British world champion and the first holder of the yellow jersey for the United Kingdom. And then secondly, our second world champion would be Mark Cavendish, who is the most successful sprinter in the Tour de France. The United Kingdom also has a proud history in motorsport, producing some of the most important teams and some of the most important drivers. Teams such as Williams and McLaren, whilst McLaren himself was from New Zealand. The team is without a doubt very British. Tyrrell would be another one who was British and very, very famous in Grand Prix motorsport. With Silverstone, Brands Hatch, Donington Park, Cadwell Park, there are several important racetracks that are located in the United Kingdom. And as success goes, we've had Lewis Hamilton, Jenson Button, James Hunt, Sterling Moss, Damon and Graham Hill, Jim Clark, all from the UK, all examples of fantastically fast, celebrated drivers, both in Formula One but other aspects of motorsport. The United Kingdom as well is very, very influential in music. We've had several famous musicians, several famous bands that have come from the United Kingdom. The Beatles, creators of modern pop music, the Rolling Stones, David Bowie, Oasis, Queen, Damon Albarn, Fatboy Slim, all from the UK. The UK itself has got a proud history of chart-topping success throughout the whole world, and it would be quite safe to argue that without British influence, I do not think that music would be the same as it is now. And finally, just to list a few famous British people. Of course, we all know who the Queen is. We've got Paul McCartney and John Lennon. Sir Winston Churchill, famous for his leadership in the Second World War. David Beckham, footballer. And then we've got Diana, Princess of Wales, who was famous both for being the Princess of Wales, the future Queen of England, but also she was famous for her charitable work before her death. And then J.K. Rowling, famous for writing the books of Harry Potter. Again, these people are all people who have contributed to British society and world society and culture, I guess, in some way. Great Britain as a country has got a proud history, and I'm sure that as the many years pass by, it will continue to contribute and add to the world in a positive and favourable light. Thank you very much for watching. I hope that you found this informative. If you've got any questions, post in the comments below.